Good afternoon. My name is Sasha Doss. I work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the Western Colorado Field Office, and I work primarily in IpaC, which stands for Information for Planning and Consultation. IpaC is the service's online platform for project planning and environmental review. And today I want to take this time to go over in a little bit more detail what IpaC is, what it has to offer, as well as review one of the new tools available in IpaC called the Consultation Package Builder, also known as the CPP. And for future reference, I am our office's IpaC liaison. So if at any point you're in IpaC and you get stuck on something or have a question, please feel free to reach out and I'll help you work through that. My contact information will be at the end of this presentation, and I'll make sure that that is distributed after the meeting. So I'm going to start with a quick about IpaC and mostly how it came to be. So let's say we have a project proponent, we'll call her Susan. She wants to construct a road. So to begin her project planning process, she'll need information on threatened and endangered species to maybe think about how her project might impact those species, especially if she is part of a federal agency. So before IpaC, she would have to call or email a service field office to get that information. And that biologist would have to manually compile that information and get it back to her. And overall, there was a lot of back and forth between the two on making sure she had the information she needed to plan her project, and on the reverse side, to make sure that we had all of the information we needed on a project to properly review it. And so a lot of time was spent in that back and forth. And so IpaC was developed to hopefully facilitate that exchange of information. So with IpaC, a lot of our information on threatened and endangered species is now available online. So we can kind of reduce the amount of time and back and forth between project proponents and the service on make sure that everyone has the information that they need. So there are several types of information available in IpaC, the first of which are resource lists. So you go into IpaC, you indicate where your project is going to occur, and based on that information and the data that we have put into IpaC, IpaC will let you know what threatened and endangered species will occur in your project area. In addition to listed species, IpaC will also let you know if there are any migratory birds in that area, if there are any wetlands, and if there are any other fish and wildlife facilities in that project area. And one of the nice things about a resource list is if you need some type of formal documentation for your work or for your project planning process, or maybe you are undergoing a formal consultation, these resource lists can be converted to official species lists, so official documentation. The second type of information that is available in IpaC are species protocols. So these include species survey protocols, habitat survey protocols, and some project design guidelines. The third type of information that is available in IpaC are effects determinations. So these are a little bit more detailed analyses about what species are in your area, and given your project type, how your project might impact those species. It'll also give you some information on what conservation measures or steps you can take to either avoid, minimize, or mitigate those impacts. I'm going to kind of run through a quick example, so conceptually you can kind of understand how IpaC works. So in the example I gave earlier, we have Susan who wants to construct a road. She's gone into IpaC, she selects her project area, and then IpaC takes the information that we've put in and queries to see, okay, well, what species then occur in that area? So in this case, we have the singing cactus and the sleeping fish, two of my personal favorites. So now that you've gone in and put your project area in, IpaC has done its work. Now it's generated a resource list or an official species list if you need it, and now you have that documentation. If we do have any survey protocols for those species or their habitat, those will also be available. So you've got those two pieces of information, and really all you need to do for those things is just put in your project area. You may also have to enter some contact information if you want the official species list. The effects determination does require a little bit more data entry and more detail about your actual project type. So in IpaC, there are two ways to do an effects determination to help you come to an effects determination. We have determination keys and in the consultation package builder. And there is also an option where you can use both of these. So a determination key is basically a set of dichotomous questions that will help you come to a determination. So most of us are familiar with this in the context of identifying a plant or a species of some kind. So there'll be a question that says, is the plant green? Yes or no? We'll answer yes and go to the next question. Is the plant taller than 10 inches? Yes or no? And you keep answering these questions until at the end, you know what the plant is. And a determination key works just the same. So at the end of answering all the questions, you'll come to, it will help you come to a determination. In the example that we were talking about, we have the singing cactus that appeared on our resource list, and we have 4 possible outcomes for a determination key. One of those is that the key isn't applicable. So for whatever reason, there's something about our project that key can address. So that's one option. Another option is a no effect, in which case we've answered the questions and found that our project will not have an effect on the cactus. The third option is a not likely to adversely affect. So those any impact that we're going to have on that species is minimal or discountable. It's not likely to adversely affect. And in these cases, IpaC will deliver a concurrence letter. It will put your information in our system and let the field office know you've used the D key. So what that means is that if you come to a no effect or not likely to adversely affect determination in IpaC using a D key, you can complete your consultation in IpaC. The field office may still review that information, but you've pretty much completed a lot of your work right there in the system. The last possible outcome is a may affect or likely to adversely affect. And in this case, it means your project may have an impact on the species. And although you can't complete your consultation in IpaC at this point, it will give you a lot of the documentation that you need to complete your consultation with the field office. In our example, I'll say that we were able to determine that our project may affect, but is not likely to adversely affect the singing cactus. And now we have a concurrence letter. So we have a lot of the documentation that we need to submit to the field office. The only other thing is that we had one more species on that list, and we haven't come to a determination for the sleeping fish. So as I mentioned, there is another option to do that in IpaC, and that is called the consultation package builder. The way the consultation package builder works is that it breaks larger activities into small activities. So we're breaking down road construction into smaller and smaller activities until we get to activities that really can't be broken down anymore. And all of this information is put in on the back end of IpaC. You don't really see this, but it will help you really analyze your project. CPB pulls in that information, and then the next thing that it does is that based on the smallest activities, the CPB will identify possible stressors caused by those small activities. So in this case, we have the use of vehicles off-road. That's leading to the generation of dust, soil compaction, and an increase in invasive species. Then, based on the biological information and the relationships that we've put in on the backside, the consultation package builder will identify how the stressors might affect the species and its resource needs. So in this case, someone on the back end of IpaC has put in information about the sleeping fish. So now we've got an idea about how our project might impact that species. The last thing that the CPB does is that it will recommend conservation measures to avoid and or minimize possible effects. So in this case, we're going back to the use of vehicles off-road, the generation of dust. The CPB will deliver a conservation measure that is generally aimed at breaking that link. And you might see things like reduced vehicle speeds or reduced vehicle weight. And these will help you, hopefully, if you implement them in your project, avoid or minimize possible effects to the species. Based on that information, we are able to come to an effects determination for the last species, the sleeping fish. And now we have all of this documentation that we can organize and then submit to our field office. And we are way more likely to have all of the information we need, having gone through that. And the field office is going to have the information they need to properly review our project. So that's conceptually how IpaC and the consultation package builder work. I hope that that was helpful. I just want to emphasize that there is a lot of flexibility in IpaC. So we want to make sure that it's a useful tool for our partners. So if there's something that you think we can do better or a way that we might be able to help you with IpaC, please reach out and let us know. If you want to know more, I've put some links to some videos here about how to use IpaC. And then lastly, I have my contact information here. Please feel free to reach out at any point, and I will hopefully be able to help you with any IpaC related issues that you have. Here we are on the IpaC page. I have this Get Started button. I'm going to go ahead and click that. We have a pop-up here about entering the location and logging in, which I will talk about the login option in just a second. So I know roughly where my project is going to take place. So I'll use this function, but you can also upload a shapefile, or you can select a larger area by state or county. I know my project is going to be near Meeker, Colorado. So I'll go ahead and put that in. And in addition to uploading a shapefile or selecting by state and county, I now have a few other options. I can sketch out my project area. I can use a polygon, create a polygon, or I can use a line to draw my project area. So I'm going to do just a little bit of freehand here and draw my project area. And with that, I already have my resource list. So that was relatively painless, hopefully. And now I have a list of all the threatened and endangered species that occur in my project area. In addition to that, I have some information on migratory birds, facilities, and wetlands in the area. You can click on the species icon if you want a little bit more information. And the second piece of information that I mentioned in the presentation was species survey guidelines. So those are available here to download if we have them available. And in this case, we have one available for the yellow-billed cuckoo. So we have our resource list, we have our species survey guidelines, but let's say that I need an official species list. So I'm going to come over here and click the Define Project button. And now it's going to ask me to log in. The reason that IpaC will ask you to create an account and log in, one of those is so that you can save project information so you don't have to complete the review process in one sitting, and you can always refer back to it. The second reason we ask you to create an account and log in is for security purposes so that we can keep your project information secure. So I'm going to go ahead and label or name my project and give it a description. In this case, I'm just entering some text. I would obviously put some more information there if this were not a demo. So now we are at the project home. So this is a tab in IpaC where you can kind of get all of the general overview information for your project. So we have our project location. We can add other people to our project if we want them to be able to access it in IpaC. We have documents here. So this includes our species survey guidelines. If we have an official species list, it will be here too. And we also have a shapefile now for our project location, which is located here. And that's really nice if you didn't have one before. We can also go back to our resource list here, and we have contact information for our local field office. So I still need an official species list, so I'm going to click the Start Review button here. You can also use the button below that, the Request Species List option there. Now I have a pop-up that is kind of taking me through the general steps. So I'm going to hit Continue. And now I have an option to request a species list. You also have an option to skip this if you don't need formal documentation, but want to use the other parts of IpaC. It's going to ask me to put in my contact information, which I've already entered and saved in my profile. You can do that with this button. It'll ask me to put in the type of project that I am working on. So I'll enter that information and request my official species list. Usually this takes a few minutes, but that document will be generated in just a few minutes. So I'm going to move quickly to the next step for my project, which is the consultation package builder. Unfortunately, right now, Colorado doesn't have any functional determination keys in IpaC. We have some in the works, but they're not ready just yet. So I'm not going to demo that today, but I'm happy to do that at a later date. So now we're moving on to this step 3, which is the CPB. And I want to highlight this word optional. A lot of people will come and use IpaC and think that they have to go through this process. But if you have a very simple project and don't need this type of analysis, or you just need an official species list, please do not feel like you have to go through this step. And you can always click out or exit review. I'm going to go ahead and enter the consultation package builder to review my project. And this pop-up is letting you know that the CPB is new. This is a general overview of the CPB, and I highly recommend that you read this before you start. It will give you a lot of information that will help you complete it, but for now I'm going to X out of this. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, I don't have time to take you through an entire project from start to finish, but you can at least see what this interface looks like. I did complete another one before this presentation, and I'm just going to kind of scroll through the document so you can get a good idea of what this assessment looks like once it's completed. So it's quite involved and there's a lot of information that goes into it, but a lot of that information has also been input on the back side of IpaC. So hopefully a lot of this is already there for you. So with that, I will end this demo and try and answer any questions that you might have.